PR Connections Radio presents.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Evelyn's Roundtable. This podcast highlights a host of relevant topics. Our conversations share voices of women of color, Black women veterans and veterans, allies, candidates, and elected officials, entrepreneurs, teachers, students, and others. We also explore important issues and challenges such as grassroots leadership, job training, homelessness, and mental health advocacy, accountability, male inclusion, and civics. Our mission statement is to empower all women. Do you hear me? All women to hold hands as we rise. Well, hello. We have a very special guest on here today, and oh my gosh, and I'm so glad she's on here. She's very powerful. She empowers me more than she knows. She's there when you need her. Wow, we all wish we had one of those, right? One of those women that we could really count on and talk to, and like I said, she's really in the community and making changes, bold changes, everyone, very bold changes, and actually doesn't care, that which is really nice, you know. But tonight is our subject, and it's about hope. I think hope is a powerful word, and I've been hearing it all day today, which is interesting. And hope is, do you bring hope? Do you give hope? Are you working on hope? Right? And so I want to end with that and introduce Tracey Lewis. And Tracey, can you please just give a little bit about yourself, and then we can get into topic.
Well, good evening, Miss Evelyn's Roundtable podcast. My name is Tracey Lewis. I'm born and raised here. I'm a native. I've retired from Clark County School District with about close to 30 years, from 92 to 2022, somewhere in there, 21, 22. Mother of one, grandmother of one, lots of siblings. I'll just chunk it up like that. I come from a huge family. I come from a family of advocates. My mother was the great late Marzette Lewis. I put her famous quote in the chat about waking up. We've been talking about that for the last 50 years. And I'm also the niece
Well, you know what we'll do? We will read until she comes back, everybody. We will read something that I got from another friend, Rebecca Souza. And I asked her what she thought about hope. And she said, here's something I think about when it comes to the idea of hope. The Merriam-Webster dictionary defines hope as 1, trust, reliance, 2, desire accompanied by expectation of fulfillment, also something hoped for. 3, one that gives promise for the future. We use the word hope all the time. I hope I feel better. I hope my money situation improves. I hope I get that new job. Sometimes we get that we hope for, and a lot of times we don't. Why is that? Let's pull out parts of the definition. The word trust and the expectation of fulfillment. If you want, try this going forward. Try changing your language. I have faith and trust that I will feel better. I have trust that my financial situation is improving. I have faith and trust that I will get that new job. Saying what we want in this way means we already have the expectation of fulfillment. And so the universe will have to oblige us, which is, yes, that's so true. We are always looking to hope to improve something, but try programming your mind to use the definition more than the word itself. Just remember that the universe for or God or higher power or whatever you prefer to believe always works to restore things to perfect balance. So when you have a problem, doesn't that mean there is also going to be a solution for it? Don't despair because there are a lot of moving parts in the world and your situation can change. That was so beautiful. Thank you, Rebecca, for sending that to me. And that is so true, right? Hope to me is doing something. Um, Hope is giving others hope. Um, Hope is, again, like Rebecca just said, we are hoping for things, but are we really giving someone else out there that needs it hope, right? And hope always goes with action. Hope is action. Um, because just for instance, with talking to the ladies in jail, that I've been doing for over a year now. And when I have my mentor meetings with them, I am like, I'm hoping I'm giving them hope to do things and to be able to have action behind it. Well, hello there, Tracey. She's back, y'all. So
I'm sorry, I have not a clue as to what just happened.
that's okay. Well, we're going to finish off because this how this works. So you can finish talking about, you left off with your mom.
So my mother started an organization called Wake Up back in the 90s. And they gave Clark County School District and the city and the state of Las Vegas, Nevada, hell. They were primarily all women. There were some men involved, but my mother, Marzette Lewis, and Deborah Jackson, who worked over at the library in West Las Vegas Library, Delray Rhodes, Miss Mother, we call her Mother Helen Tolan. Oh my God, it was a lot of them. H.P. Fitzgerald before he passed away, Shirley Barber, a number of the Black administrators that worked in the Clark County School District at that time. They were part of Wake Up, and then they had LAVAPSI, then they had the NAACP, they had NAN, and then they had churches, real churches. I don't know, I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for saying real churches. I don't know what we have right now, but when she created Wake Up, the Las Vegas Alliance of School Black Educators, they all had different lawsuits going on at that time for the injustices of what was going on in historic West Las Vegas at that time. The schools that are known in the predominantly West Las Vegas area, known as sixth grade centers, then became prime six schools. So schools like Booker, CBT Gilbert, Joe Mackey, Matt Kelly, Corner McCall, and Mabel Hogart, and at that time Madison, which is now known as Wendell P. Williams, they ended up having a lawsuit with the Office of Civil Rights and Justice Department of Education, and that's when H.P. Fitzgerald came into play with that Prime Six. We had not had an elementary school built in our community for 30 years at that time.
Wow.
We had not had a middle school or a high school, and to this date, we still per se don't have a quote unquote traditional high school. I call it a piece of a high school over at West Prep. So a part of that fight ended up getting us the first middle school in historic West Las Vegas, which is known as Dr. Charles I. West, but most people call it West Preparatory because they think it's because it's in the West Side. But all of our schools are named after prominent people in our community. So like Kit Carson is now known as Helen Tolan Anderson, which is mother tolling. And it took a while for us to get that. We had to fight with the previous superintendent about that. But with that fight, we had sixth grade centers where the Black students only went to school for kindergarten and sixth grade over here. The white kids were bused in for sixth grade, and then that was it. The rest of the time, the Black students were bussed out. So the neighborhood that I lived in, Delmonico, I was on for Tamiyasu. So from where I lived on Martin Luther King, where the Martin Luther King statue is, all the way out to where Tamiyasu is, that's where I was bused when I was younger. So when people are talking about the busing and the desegregation, that's what that is all about. When Kamala Harris, our vice president, came out about that with President Joe Biden, I could relate to what she was talking about because we were bused in that sense. A number of things happened with when Wake Up and LaVapsy filed those complaints with the Office of Civil Rights and the Justice Department of Education. We pretty much had like an economic boom, I would call it, in our community. Jobs were created. We had bus aids because students that were in special ed had been sexually molested on buses. The bus drivers couldn't pull over to help. Some of the same things that are going on now. We had more classroom aids, supports for teachers at the time. We had more resources as far as materials for students. They started the pre-K programs, the 3-year-olds and the 4-year-old programs with Elise X and Mary Newman and Dr. Susan Wright and Charlene Green. So if anybody is listening that knows anything about the history, these are some names that go way back to where we are currently with some of the programs that were instituted in the district. But with that fight and with that battle came some challenges, some pushback across the board. Our district at one time was ran by all Blacks. Dr. Carl Perkins was our first Black superintendent. And so he brought in all these people from all over the nation. School district was thriving. They knew how to mentor. They knew how to work with each other. They knew how to support one another. And even with other ethnic races and groups of people. But it got to a point where other people started getting in and doing the divide and conquer. So we call it the Willie Lynch, and that's where we are like today. And so amongst us women, and I know I'm kind of maybe like jumping, women have always been on the forefront. We've always been on the front line with everything that has taken place in this world and in this society. And so that's why I just kind of put some of these quotes in the chat because that is what motivates me, that helps me to keep going, because I know now I have a grandson. So I look at males completely different than I do females, because at one time the whole fight and the push war was for females. Well, now for me it's both, because I have a young 6-year-old grandson that lives down south, and with the way everything is going in this world, I'm concerned. The world isn't getting any better. Racism exists. It's real. People don't want to say that it doesn't. And I'm sorry, it's embedded in the fabric of the world. And we just have to know who to deal with and how to deal with them when we know they're racist. Like, for me, I'm not a racist, but I'm prejudiced. Because if I don't like you, Evelyn, that means I'm prejudging you. I don't like you. Now, I have plenty of people that I'm prejudiced with, but it doesn't mean that I'm racist and that I don't like them in that context. Because I have every ethnic group in my family. Most of us do. Yes. My grandfather or great-grandfather, he was white. He was a white man. And so people have to be realistic and just know that racism is real. And there's some people who feel as if they have to have close proximity to certain people to survive or to make it or to be powerful or to be the loudest voice or to, I'm not that person. If I see something that's going wrong, I'm going to just jump in there and help whoever that situation is impacting at that time. Because at the end of the day, if it's about kids, I'm for the kids. I don't care if they're Black, white, Hispanic, this, that, or the other. at the end of the day, they're still children. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're finding out that these parents just really don't know how to navigate these systems, because there are a lot of systems that they're using our kids, or they're using our ethnicity or our race, um, as a resource. I'll say it like that. So school
Or
district,
against us too, though,
yeah.
because
So
of not knowing knowledge, like you said. If you don't know the knowledge, yeah,
yeah. So this is me. I'm looking at it with all these systems right now, right? Because they say just follow the money. So in education, it's $1 billion industry. But when you look at what's going on in special ed, and you look at what's happening in some of these other departments, when they're kicking kids out of school, that's money, because then those kids end up going to these behavioral schools. And sometimes from those behavioral schools, they go into these other systems and institutions. Well, all those systems and institutions, they're getting money off of us. So when we're talking about the welfare, Medicaid, and all of that, that's a system. They're getting money. Excuse me. When you look at some of the things going on in the social service and the penal system, all of those systems, they're getting money. And so when we're hearing about the pipeline, the prison, the pipeline, however you want to say it,
right,
at the end of the day, it's all about money. So I'm like, well, we're their resource. People don't look at it like that, but I'm just, maybe it's just me, but that's how I'm looking at it. And then if schools are in certain geographical locations, they they allegedly get money, right? That
right,
the schools should see, but on paper, they're saying that they're getting the money, but in reality, the money is going to a school that may not need it in a affluent area. So there's a lot of gameplay. I mean, if people really just wanted to do the right thing by all kids, by all people, no matter what your um, zip code was or is, I think we would be in a better place. I know
yes,
it's easier
no,
said than done,
it
but
is.
I know that there are some strong women, and that is the path that we're on or trying to get to, so that we can continue to support one another. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be us. I mean, and there are some men that are really out there trying to support, because they have daughters and they see what's happening. And so I want to give them their kudos. This is not for me to be bashing males or anything like that, because I love my men. I really do. I love my men. Um, but I love everybody, but I do have issues and concerns with certain.
In her internet again, and that's okay. Um, I just want to again get back on topic with, and it's great what she said. I agree with a lot of things she said, because there is a difference, right? I think again the area code, she's right about that, that different things are happening in different area codes, and there's different organizations, different monies, different people, and how things are being taken care of. I mean, we can talk about homelessness too. We can talk about HOAs and different areas, and people within the HOAs, and what things are happening, how things are going. And Tracey, let's get on topic about the hope, because that really, because you're talking about action is what
What
you're talking about,
we
right?
got to
I
have
was
hope
talking
in
about
order
hope,
to
but
have
you talking about
action.
all the action, because that's what I said earlier. Like, hope is about action, right? And you can say
Absolutely.
hope all day long, but if there's no action behind any of that. And I really wanted to go back to when you're talking about your mom and your grandmother and all of them, because that's what they set up for us, right? They were setting, even though now I was really thinking about it that way when I was a kid, when my grandmother would do the old saying she would say to me, and and I need to do this and I need to do that. I'm like, okay, she's my great grandmother. But you're right. They were setting
Mhm.
us up. They were. And we need to follow through with hope. We do. And
Mhm.
hope is action, though.
Oh,
And if
they
you,
knew what was coming down the pipeline.
they
Those
knew, isn't that something?
they had wisdom, they had vision, and somewhere we've lost that disconnect. And those of us that have our elders still around, we need to be at their feet getting all that knowledge. I mean, every single day, all day, I have my conversations with my mother and my aunties because I come from a big family. People think I come from a small family, but it was 11 of them. So I have a enormous family here. But as I look and go through like the articles and I'm remembering the fight that they had here when they migrated here to Vegas. Um, they paved the way for a lot of people. And a lot of people also don't know that my biological father was the first black electrician. So I come from some folk that knew what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But there was always that other questionable question mark behind the scenes of things, and how people started just kind of forgetting where they came from, and
Yes.
people just kind of started drifting, drifting away. And those folks that even back then that was trying to do the right thing and stand the course, were talked about. They didn't have the support. I mean, I think about Martin Luther King all the time and John Lewis. They didn't really want to support Martin Luther King. I mean,
No.
he became more popular after his assassination. When you think about it, the churches didn't really support him the way that they should have. I mean, and when you have people really putting their necks out there and trying to say, here is hope, Fannie Lou Hamer said it best. I'm going to paraphrase, but she was like, you can pray until the sun comes up, but you still got to put in that action. But prayer is a form of hope. Prayer for me is faith. And so, whatever it is that we're wanting, like we're doing this whole mindset trend now and asking the universe to just give us what we're asking for, I think at some point we're going to be in the promised land once everybody gets on the same page that the universe wants us on. Because we come from a background of spirituality, and knowing that there's a greater, uh, I'm trying to use my words carefully, but a bigger being than all of us. Whatever you practice, I'm with it. As long as you
So
believe in
true.
something, we're good.
It is, but it's true what you said though. It is. It is. And I read when something that was from Rebecca, a friend of mine, and she talked about the either the higher power or your spiritualness or whatever. But there is someone to answer to or something, right? And it's something
Hmm.
because when you feel I call it the Holy Spirit, and that's just my word that I use. And
Hmm.
when you feel that after you done did something that's been like wow, and that feeling is something, it's so, oh my gosh, and people are like, what are you talking about? And but these are like what, I mean, many miracles. I don't know how you want to call that, but everybody thinks, oh, this miracle that you move water. No, there's many miracles, y'all. There's many things that happens and you're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
was, ooh,
every day. Every day there's miracles. I mean, I'm going through them in my personal. We all have a lot of things going on in our own personal lives, but we find a way to support people who need help. When they ask for help, we find a way, Camilla and myself, and individuals like yourself and Dr. Cosgrove. So we just keep it pushing. We just ask the spirit for strength. And then I did find that quote. So from Fannie Lou, it's you can pray until you faint, but unless you get up and try to do something, God is not going to put it in your lap. That means you got to get up and you got to do the work along with prayer. But we should already be prayed up to do the work. And I remember hearing Camilla, at the the shepherd's breakfast when she stood up and she said, we're praying and God is answering our prayers, but we're not doing nothing with the prayers that he's answering. So what are we going to do when he's presenting, the answers to us? We just have to know that it's him presenting the answers. So she didn't say it quite like that, but that's basically what she was saying, because we go to church, we do all of this stuff in the churches. The churches absolutely have a huge platform. The Divine Nine, fraternities and sororities, they absolutely have a huge platform. And we have a critical election that's coming up that people are playing patty cake with, and those of us that really know what's going on, we're taking this very serious, because depending on who's elected and how they're elected, this can set us back. We're already fighting, trying to keep and maintain what we thought we had, because we've lost a lot with this new Supreme Court and all of that.
Yes.
But there are a lot of people that are not registered to vote, which I think is very shameful, especially Black folks, when we were hosed down and all of that to get to be able to vote. And then there are those that are saying they're not going to vote because they don't like the two candidates. Well, you know what? You have to. Just don't let your vote go to waste. Vote for one or the other and call it a day. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for.
Oh.
I know who I'm voting for, but just make sure that you vote. But not only is it the presidential election that's very important, it's the down ballots. The ballots that affect you and impact you here and where you live. And so we try to get people to understand that. But like with the school board races, those races are at the very, very bottom of your ballots. If you don't know and you're not following any of these candidates, or you don't follow certain areas, or you just don't like elected officials, whatever, you need to be paying attention to who you're voting for, or finding out who these people are that are writing policy and laws that impact you right here in Clark County. I mean, it's fine with what they're doing at the federal level, which are congressional people, Stephen Horsford, Dina Titus, Susie Lee. That's fine. That's one thing. But the stuff that's impacting us here, the mayor's race, that impacts us here if you live in the city of Las Vegas. You have Shelley Berkeley and Kira Jenkins and Cedric Creer, and there's somebody else in that mayor's race. But those are like your top three right off the top that I'm thinking about right now. Their names are out there.
Victoria Siemens in there.
Yeah, Victoria Siemens. And then so when you look at who's running for these city council seats, you have Chandra Summers Armstrong, you have
Erica Smith,
Sheila Collins, you have, so those seats impact who's going to represent you, or what write policies and things that will impact you on a day-to-day basis. So we need people to understand that. School board race right now is very critical for parents. They need to understand that there's a group, a right-wing group out there that's called Moms for Liberty. And they're out banning books and going after the transgender kids and just, spewing lies and things of that nature. If you're not careful, you're going to have some of them sitting on the board. We had that with Katie Williams. And so we don't need a board full of them right now when we already have a lot of issues in our district. We're actually in a space and a place to change the course of what's going on the school board. If we get the right trustees elected, there's 4 seats up right now. Yes, and then the 4 trustees that are coming on board, they're going to be able to deal with this new superintendent if this current board allows them to have a role in that. But I call them the 4 hatchet head women, but they're trying to make sure that they have say in who this superintendent is going to be right now, this current board. They should not have anything to do with any of this at all, because most of them are going to be going off.
Yes.
And that's very nervous, and it's very scary, because this is what happened when we got the previous superintendent. I'm not even going to give his name any energy, but we had a board that was going off at that time, and they decided they wanted the previous superintendent. Then they were off the board, and then those current trustees had to deal with what we dealt with him all these years.
Mm.
So we have an opportunity to really change the course in the field of education if people are really serious about that. The same thing with the city council, city of Las Vegas. If you're really ready to change the course, make sure you know these candidates and where they stand and what they're about. The city council people, make sure you know what they stand for. What
Yes.
have they been doing? Have they been visible in the community? Because some people are just popping up out of nowhere. I'm like, well, who are you? I don't see you. I don't know you. Especially when it
Voting
comes
is
to
very
education.
important. It
Yeah,
is. Even
yeah.
and I agree with you. It doesn't matter where and who how you're voting. It's just being registered, which most of Nevadans are registered, we found out. But it's the part about going out and doing the action, right? It's about going
Hmm.
out there and voting. Because I say that when I do phone calls for some of the electives, it's like, okay, you don't want me to call you, you don't want me, they get mad when you call them. But it's like it's really about making sure you vote. And
Hmm.
I agree with this is very important. I know, and like you said, everybody said it last time too. But we need to bring again. I'm gonna say this word: hope to these women because this is our body. You are telling me what to do with my body. Like I really take offense to that. I
Hmm.
do as a female
Hmm.
too. I'm like, wow. Well, we don't tell you men to go do what you do and top
Right.
your things off and meaning so that because women are the one that usually get their tubes tied and all that when it comes to the babies. Well, why can't the men? Why
Hmm.
can't the men go get their sacks cut in the women because it's a lot that you go through when you get your tubes tied and all the emotions and the oh my gosh, it's a lot.
Hmm.
It's a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. I agree with you 1,000%. I'm just looking at everything across the board. Where do these candidates stand on all of these issues? And usually only women can get the needle moving and get the ball rolling. I mean, yeah, there's usually some pushback, but if enough of us come together and support whoever's pushing those bills or those policies or those initiatives, then we can get things done. And sometimes we have to put egos and pride to the
Mm,
side and dislikes and things like that. Because I tell people about me, you may not like my delivery, you may not like what I say, I may come off a
okay.
little whatever, sarcastic or whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, if it's anything that's going to benefit students, kids, babies, seniors, that's the group of people who I love. I love everybody, but they're the two most vulnerable groups of people that we have right now. And so I
Yes.
will come out and I will support and I will help however I can in those areas. That's why when I get calls about students, everything else is put on the side. Whatever I got going on in my personal is pushed on the back burner. My family gets upset with me about that because then I have to catch up to get my personal stuff, back on track. But at the end of the day, if the parents don't know, we got to step in and we have to help. And it's a lot of that is going on right now across the board with the city of North Las Vegas. They have their own issues. They have
Yep.
their mayor. Well, Pam is not up, but you have Twix that's up for city council, and it's
Yes. Which
Tanya. Oh, no, Tanya's up for Senate seat.
Lord
Yeah,
Perkins is running
and
for
Laura
Senate.
Perkins, and you got a number
Yes.
of people who are up that you just need to have these conversations and see where they stand. And
Commissioner seats
sometimes the
are up
incumbents,
too.
yeah, and sometimes the incumbents have gotten really comfortable
Yes.
and gotten lazy. But now there are some incumbents that rock. They've been there, they've been doing the job, and they know where the bodies are buried, they know where the money is. And so those people you continue to support in whatever roles they're trying to run for. If they're in the Senate seat and they're trying to run for a congressional race or trying
Yeah.
whatever it is, because these individuals end up becoming career politicians.
Yes.
Some people
That's
say
why
that
we
that's
want
not
term
what they're
limits,
wanting
right?
to do, but they end up becoming career politicians because they learn about these systems. Not all of them, I'm just saying some of them become career politicians for the wrong reason. If you're going to go into politics, go into it to make a change, to change the systems. Because right now, our systems are so old and antiquated that they need to be blown up and started from scratch.
Yes.
And that's where we can have hope. And then you
Yes.
do have women in these spaces. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring common sense, and a lot of this stuff is for me. And I'm just speaking my opinion, nobody else's. This is Tracey's 2 cents of whatever this mush is that I'm talking about. But
Right.
you you got to know who you're dealing with. And if you're a Christian, the way you say that you're a Christian, okay, and I'm not going to go down the other path, but if you have a gift of discernment and you saying you hearing from the Lord, then you need to be hearing and seeing from the Lord if he's telling you to do the right thing. Because if I've done something wrong and the Spirit is convicting me and I owe you an apology, I'm going to come and apologize, you know. And if I haven't, then I'm not, because the Spirit hasn't said, oh, you're convicted. Now, some stuff, I'm not going to put it on the Spirit. It's going to be like, look, I just made a mistake and I owe you an apology. But I know in the back of my mind, I'm going to end up having to have a snap, crackle, pop moment with somebody else about the same situation. But I'm trying to really get better at that. You know what I mean? So,
Yes. And you know what? I want to bring something back that you said too. And I thought it was really like, wow. And you talked about women have been the leaders and the wisdom carriers and the speakers from the beginning of time.
oh,
Right?
absolutely.
I mean, oh my goodness, right? All the
Hmm.
women that came forth, even we can go back to slavery if you really want to go and take it
Hmm.
there, right?
Hmm.
And have the women had to take care of the master house and everything and feed the babies and make sure everything was fine. Women ran and have been
Everything.
running the house for a long time,
Hmm.
a long time. And look how long it took us to vote. Like,
Yeah.
oh, and everybody's like, we've been voting forever. No, we haven't. No,
No, we have not. No.
no. Women have not had rights that long, everybody. Like, you acting like women, oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, no. And the Supreme Court just pushed us all the way back. And Arizona, too, with that bill they just did, right? Then they just passed something, well, it's got rejected, but
Yeah.
what was it, 1864 or something like that?
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
1860. Yeah. These 1860 somethings is 1860 and me wanting to do some other stuff. But anywho, yeah, it's, we just have to really be mindful and pay attention to what's going on, because they were really trying to take women back to a time and era when they were just barefoot and pregnant and in the kitchen. That's really
That's
what
where
they want.
that's
They
where
don't
we
want
at.
us to be um, career oriented and out here trying to compete with them in the job world, the job market. And sometimes women are usually more intelligent and more smarter than men when it comes to certain things.
I
I
have to
maybe I shouldn't
agree.
maybe I
I
shouldn't,
mean, I mean, we
I
have
shouldn't
different
say it like
levels.
that. But
I,
I think it just depends on the situation. I'm gonna
that,
say it like that.
right, but there is something, because I think because the emotional side of us and we're
Yeah,
the baby carriers and barriers,
absolutely.
and maybe you don't have a child but you're still on that level, right?
Hmm.
Because you can do multitask,
Yeah,
that what we do, we
yeah,
multitask, right?
yeah.
So but and again, they'll compare a 19-year-old female to a 19-year-old male, and they're like, no, there's a difference there, right? You
Hmm.
different train of thought, different what you're thinking about. Even, you know what, even with insurance, the 24-year-old or 25-year-old male pays more for insurance than a 25-year-old woman. That's true,
Hmm.
right? Because there's certain things, right,
That's
that
going on. Yeah,
yes, but women have held it down, y'all,
yeah.
for a long time. And it's time for us to be better allies with each other And it's time for us to stop thinking the one is doing more. Because to me, I think everyone on this earth has a purpose. Everyone is brought into this earth. I think that everyone is brought
Absolutely.
into this earth with their own purpose that the higher power has given you. Some choose to look at it and allocate with it and use it. Some don't do anything with it and don't even know it. I don't know.
Hmm.
I just, that's how I feel, that everyone was brought here for something.
Yeah, we're here to serve each other in whatever capacity it is. Whatever your strengths is, whatever your gifts are that God has given you, you should be using it. And we don't have to try to measure up to other people. You have some people
Yeah.
that have all these um, startup businesses, but they're not successful because they're trying to be in everybody's business, but they're not focusing in on their business or what God has given them. Because I'm a true believer that whatever the blueprint is that God has given you to do, only you can do it, because everything else
Mm,
that's mimicked or people try to regurgitate or pretend like they know what they're doing or they're the gurus or whatever it is, and they have not been in those spaces, it backfires. Or people start to
God.
eventually, they see it, and then they start to say something. And if they don't say something to you as a individual person, well, guess what? People are talking about it. That person then set up here and did this, that, and the other, and don't know what they're doing. And it goes back for me when I watched the women back in the early, when I was a young woman, I was behind the scenes. I watched how those women would strategize. They would meet at each other's homes. They would cook, because they have a baby on the hip, be on the telephone. We know how to do all of that and just keep it pushing. But I watched them in amazement to see how they got things done. And then when they pulled off the boycott, they pulled off a boycott with the school district. I was like, okay, this is how y'all do this. So
Mhm. Action.
people have forgotten about a lot of the work when it comes back to our community and in these spaces where these women have paved the way. They've gone to jail. They've been lied on. They've been everything, you name it, they've done it. This
Disrespected.
generation now that's talking about they're what those women were, let me tell you, no, you're not. If you can't go out and do a protest, if you can't go out and have a press conference, if you can't go out and do all of the things that you need to do to get the word out about whatever it is that you're trying to do or whatever it is that's going to help our community, then no, you please don't go comparing yourself to the women of old, because those women didn't play. They did what they needed to do.
Yeah.
They supported each other, whether they liked each other or not.
Yes,
They took care of each other's kids. They cooked, whatever. And we were more family oriented then than what we are now.
I agree.
We've lost a lot.
A
And so,
lot.
yeah, and it
A
bothers me
lot.
when I see people trying to emulate the fighters of old, the ancestors, because it's just not going to work for you. It's going to backfire. And then if you don't know all the historical aspects and components of it, it's definitely going to backfire.
Oh
Because
yeah, and
number
it's your
one,
heart. Because you're
yeah,
talking about your heart right now too, right? In your
yeah,
faith, your yeah, because this isn't yeah, because you're getting deeper, because this is not about, okay, no, this is your heart, your faith,
yeah. It's all,
period.
this goes right back to hope, faith.
Yes,
I call it grace, mercy, and peace. We
yes.
all need it.
You got to have it. And then especially in the line of work that you're doing and the line of work that I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
it and then I said too earlier, once you have given someone hope by some action that you have done, you're like, wow, because that's your purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow. And again, I went and I said too earlier that not everybody knows their purpose, but then again, maybe you're not recognizing that it's your purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're not recognizing that it's your purpose. But
Mm-hmm.
if something keeps happening in the way that you're doing it, and you're successful and you're enjoying it, that's your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That's your hope that you're giving action to for someone out here in this community.
Yeah,
And
and if you're trying to get paid for it, the money will follow if it's not there.
yeah, because that's what
Sometimes it take a little longer than it does for others, but eventually it will show up.
and if that's
Eventually.
what you're doing it for, then forget it anyways,
Right.
right? Because we all,
Absolutely.
oh gosh, a lot of I've gotten phone calls. Okay, I just got this nonprofit and I want to do a grant and I wanted this and this. And I'll say, well, how long have you had the non? Oh, about a month. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
wow.
You got to put some work into those nonprofits.
Exactly. You have not put enough work into this. But again, when you serve your purpose, when you serve and give hope, then you know it's coming. You know it is. And it's just
Mhm.
time, right? And
Mhm.
well, I love this conversation, and I am so happy that you were able to come on here and everything. And I just want to know any last words that you want to say or you want to speak about. Anything that you want to say before we jump off here.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I've had fun. I know we've been around the world and the universe, and we're back now here in on planet Pluto. So, but thank you for everything. I do want to just make sure that people know that early voting is starting to happen, to pay attention to their ballots. If there are any pastors or people that go to church, have church parties for these ballot parties so that people know who to vote for. Call people who you know are really active in the community, who know these judges, who know these city council candidates, the school board, especially if you have children. I know if there's women listening, you have some children, whether they're your biological, foster, niece, nephew, cousin, everybody has a child connected to the Clark County School District some kind of way. Everybody needs to be all hands on deck with this election for that school board because there are two moms for liberty in two of those races. So be mindful of that. Know who the candidates are, know where you live, know who you will want to represent you if their name is on your ballot. But we have some amazing people running. Ray Kennedy is running, I believe, for
Oh
Justice
yes,
Court.
Ray.
Oh my God. I
Yeah,
met her, heard her
Ray.
platform. I absolutely love her. Absolutely love her. She
Yes.
needs to be in that space because we don't know when we're going to go before any of these judges and who these judges are going to be. And so we need to make sure we have people that are going to have compassion because folks then forgot about compassion. People are
Yes,
just really
yes,
mean
yes.
and just
Judge
nasty.
Sierra too. She's running.
Yeah.
We have some women in Boulder City are running, and I'm glad you hit on that. And I didn't cut you off, but we're doing ballots too, and make sure your ballots are filled out correctly. There's already 4,000 ballots that have been thrown out because people are not filling them out correctly. They're not using the same signature on their driver's license. They're forgetting this. Go in there. The ballot has the directions on there on how to fill. And if you have a hard time, go find somebody. Make a phone call because that's the sad part. You have a
Hmm.
right to vote. But
Yeah.
when you don't fill out that ballot, right, they're going to, and they're not, and then they send it back, and it's too late most of the time to make the corrections to send it back out.
Hmm.
So to me, the easier way is like you said, mail, go and have it checked out, and early voting to me. And that
Early
just
voting.
does it,
Absolutely.
right? And you can go anywhere. You don't have to stay in your district. You can go anywhere. Even Meadows Mall has a place that you can go in. I think right here on Rainbow in Vegas, there's a place. There's look up the place where you can do it. I think to me it's so important. Like I said, you might not vote for whoever we're talking about or discuss, but you still need to vote.
Hmm.
It's part of
Absolutely.
what we do. It's democracy, y'all. It's
Yes.
important.
Absolutely. Democracy right now. Literally, when you're hearing people talk, our democracy is at stake, that's them sounding the alarm. This is real. This ain't for play. Like we need all hands on deck. People need to vote in this primary and then in the general because whichever candidates you vote for in the primary, if they get 51% of the vote, they automatically go on the ballot in November, which is the
Remember.
general. depending on if it's I think a nonpartisan race, if they have like a Republican or something or independent on the ballot. That's where the difference usually shifts in November. But just please make sure that you vote. If you don't know who to vote for or what's going on, talk to somebody who is out there that knows the ropes and that can support you in whatever your decisions will be. If you're having issues with your children in the Clark County School District, you can reach out to LAVAPSI, which is myself and Camilla Bywaters, she's the president. I'm the vice president. You can call me at 702-812-8971. If you know Miss Evelyn, she can give you my information. I usually just tell people to text me so I know that it's a parent or whatever. But, just pay attention to what's even going on now with our kids. There are a lot of kids being expelled from school at the end of the school year, and they're Black and brown kids, primarily Black. But, I know people don't like to talk about it, but that's a reality. That's a reality for us. And I tell other women that are not Black, until you've walked in my shoes, you cannot tell me what the experiences are, because you are entitled and privileged when people see you because you're white or Anglo, or whatever word you want to use. But when people look at myself or Evelyn or any of our other sister friends in all of this, usually they see a Black woman or a Hispanic woman or a Native American woman or somebody from the AAPI community. Like, we have a different experience than what you guys have.
Yes.
We all, and most of us that are in that minority group, our experiences are somewhat similar. It's based on culture and things of that nature. So thank you once again. I think I've kind of covered everything.
Yes.
But hope is always there.
Well, we'll have you on here again, of course. And I just wanted to give an announcement too. June 1st at the historic West Side School, there's going to be a veteran event from 9 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Please come through and support your veterans and their families. Nevada Women in Trades, please contact us at www.nevada, spelled out, WIT.org. And come on the website and pay attention to LAVAPSI, because there's some things going around here that everyone needs to start paying attention to. And I just thank all of you for listening, all my viewers. Again, you can go to Evelyn's Roundtable and look at our previous roundtables we have had. And this month's topic was about hope. And I'm hoping that we have helped some of you out here. And we're going to end with our famous mission statement. And it's about empowering women, holding hands as we rise. So don't forget that, ladies. Always talk to somebody in need. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.